was 14. It was an average night. Around 9 p.m., me and my little cousin are at his house, and I'm babysitting for the night while my mom and aunt are shopping and my dad and uncle are at the movie theater. So we're sitting there, and I was feeling really strange. Something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it, so I just kept watching TV with my cousin. The feeling wasn't going away, so I got up and walked to the back door to lock it. When I came back through the kitchen, I saw what was causing my weird feeling. In the window, there was a very decrepit and homeless-looking man, just staring into the window, looking at my cousin. Protective mode turned on. I pretended like I didn't see the guy, and I told my little cousin that we needed to go upstairs because our parents would be home soon and they wouldn't want him to be staying up late. I went up the stairs and put him to bed, knowing damn well that there was a man outside that wanted in. I was about 125 pounds and 5'8" at the time, and I played football for my school. If I remember correctly, I went downstairs and straight into the kitchen and grabbed one of those meat tenderizing hammers. I turned back to the window where I saw him before, and he's not there. I ran back to the front door and checked that it was locked. Both the deadbolt and the knob were locked. I ran back upstairs with my meat tenderizer and went into my cousin's room and sat down in front of the door. He asked me what I was doing, and I said that he didn't need to worry about it and that he should keep his head low. I called the cops and then my dad and uncle. Cops would take half an hour and my dad and uncle were 45 minutes away. Then I hear a window shatter and the sound of heavy boots walking around on the main floor. I told my cousin to stay calm, hide under the covers, and to keep silent. I could hear the guy walking around downstairs. It was horrifying. I gripped that damn meat tenderizer and waited. About 5 minutes pass and then I hear the boots walking upstairs. At this point I was having a freaking heart attack. My cousin's door is no more than 10 feet from the stairs. I heard him opening the doors to my aunt and uncle's room, then the bathroom. He walked back downstairs and I heard him open the door to the basement. 15 minutes later, the police showed up and burst into the house and found him sitting in a chair. Turned out the guy was loose from a mental hospital 1 province away. I was in my house alone and I was maybe 8. My dad had gone to pick my mom up from work so they wouldn't be too long. Someone came to the door and knocked on the windows in the upper 1/3 of the door. I opened the door and the guy standing there had to be about 6'6" to 6'10", and rather huge. He said he was from some company. I can't recall the name, but it had Globe or Global in it. As soon as I opened the door, he starts to look around behind me. I said my parents weren't home, bad idea, and he gave me a smirk that I can't get out of my head. I told him to come back when my parents got there, and he said he'd wait for them with me. I tried to close the door on him, but I was 8, and this guy was immense. Fortunately for me, the phone rang, and I said something along the lines of, "Oh, the police must be calling me back." I was a dumb kid, so that's what I came up with. Fortunately for me, it was enough to make him shove off. Parents came home. I told them about it, and then they started asking questions about him. I said all I could. He never came back, and they'd never heard of the company he said he worked for. I was extra fortunate in this incident, because upon his departure and my locking of the door, I noticed that he'd actually cracked the window he knocked on. This guy could have torn me in half if he'd had the thought, and there was nothing that I could have done. Not home alone, but I alone witnessed the beginning alone. We live in a farmhouse pretty far from other people. It was summer and we didn't have air conditioning upstairs, so all our windows were open. My window happened to be right over our deck sliding door. It was 1 a.m. and our dogs started barking. I didn't think much of it because they normally barked at the wildlife outside. For some reason, they settled down pretty quickly. Then I heard it. The faintest knocking ever. I froze in the summer heat, frozen in fear. I knew I had to look at whatever made the knocking because I was the only one awake now, but I didn't want to. Then another faint knocking. I decided I had to, and I looked down to see a man. A very tall, well-built man in a trench coat. He wasn't knocking with his hand. He was knocking with something in his hand. I crept to my mom's room and woke her up, and then to my dad's room to wake him up. My parents don't sleep in the same rooms, so don't judge. They have a happy marriage. They just have completely different sleeping habits and couldn't compromise, which was hard because he's hard to wake up, but I didn't want to alarm the man downstairs. His room is near the deck too, so he looks down and sees the man. Now the man is jiggling the door furiously, but also trying to remain quiet. Dad grabs something to defend himself with. We headed downstairs with Mom and I trailing him. When the man sees the three of us with our defenses, he steps back looking confused. Dad talks through the window. He asked him what he wanted, why he was here, and stated that he has a weapon and the police have already been called. The man, now stumbling over his words, trying to pretend he was drunk and needed a ride home, Dad said. And I remember this line so vividly because it was so epic. I call bullcrap because who wears a trench coat in the hot summer heat while they're drunk? The man saw the police car pulling up and took off through the field. What they found still gives me shivers to this day. They found a machete near the deck.